future of anti-Semitism on our college campuses. It was in this room. And at Harvard University, on the night of October 7th, when 45 American citizens were butchered, when they were murdered, when they were burnt alive and raped, when dozens of American citizens were taken hostage, including at least 6 who are still there, the reaction of America's best and brightest, the most articulate, the most intelligent, the most educated, the reaction of those students and professors at Harvard, at Columbia, at Penn, at NYU was the celebration, the normalization, and the acceptance of terrorism and of anti-Semitism. And it has been a painful and difficult journey the last year and a half to see how normalized and accepted that anti-Semitism and that anti-Americanism has become on our college campuses. And so in January, under the discretion of President Trump's 2019 executive order on anti-Semitism, we filed a lawsuit against Harvard University. Our lawsuit survived the motions to dismiss by Harvard, and we are the first case in American history pertaining to the civil rights violations of Jewish students on a college campus that is actually going to trial. And this will set legal precedents so that Jewish students in the future will finally have the protections that they need and they deserve. But let me be absolutely clear. The fight that Jewish students are waging across the college campuses is not simply a fight for the Jewish people. It is not simply a fight for the state of Israel. It is a fight for the American people. It is a fight for our American country, American people, and it is a fight for American democracy. Because yes, my Harvard classmates will chant death to Israel, but they almost always will chant death to America as well. Yes, they have vandalized our Israeli flags. They have vandalized all of our American flags as well. Yes, they have torn down the hostage posters of Israeli citizens. They have done the exact same thing with American citizens. And I urge you, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, regardless of your political position, regardless of your ideologies, I urge each and every one of you to join those Jewish Americans fighting on their college campuses, fighting for the American people, fighting for American democracy. Join us in that fight. Join us and stand up for American values. I urge you, if you want to help me, if you want to help Jewish students, if you want to honor the legacy of Golda Meir, who we are celebrating tonight, then I urge you, make sure that Jewish students are protected on college campuses. Please defy Chuck Schumer and pass the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act now, 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 now. And with that, I want to introduce someone who is an embodiment, a manifestation of everything right with American Jewry, everything right with that fight. It is not often that I can introduce someone who is not just a mentor and a role model, but is also a friend. This is someone who has fought for the American people, someone who has fought for the Jewish people, who invests not just his resources and money, but his time, his talents, and his energy into the United States and to the state of Israel. And it is my honor to call upon that mentor, that role model, and that friend, Bobby Rechnitz.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. During her lifetime, Golda Meir talked a lot about Israel being the land and people of no choice. She is frequently quoted as saying that the Jewish state had a secret weapon against its enemies. It had nowhere to go. However, there's an even more perceptive quote from Golda that I've thought a lot about since the October 7th massacre. There can be no compromise. They say we must be dead, and we say we want to be alive. Between life and death, I don't know of a compromise, and that's why we have no choice. It is this understanding that as Israel entered Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and attacked Iran and Yemen over the last 14 months, it was to ensure that the Jewish state continues to live and its people have security. For those who forgot, Israel did not start this war, but it is going to end it because it is the land of no choice, a people that want to live. This is what I believe motivates its political, security, and intelligent leaders, all led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu every single day. Like Golda, Bibi has his faults and has made mistakes. But since that dark day in October last year, Israel's leadership has ensured that those who led, masterminded, and took part in those attacks and their allies are no more. Sinwar, Daesh, Nasrallah have all been gratefully removed from the face of the earth like the blood, with the blood of those that they spilled, avenged. Assad has been removed, and the Ayatollahs are becoming defenseless. The leaders of the land of no choice have given their people freedom, security, and safety for years to come. Furthermore, it has freed countless millions from the tyranny of Iran and its proxies, Assad, Hamas, Hezbollah, and Islamic Jihad. The land and people of no choice is giving the people and countries of the region a choice: to end their enslavement by extremists and to embrace moderation, peace, and prosperity. More and more people in the Middle East are starting to understand that Israel is not their enemy. Their enemies are those who enslave them to radical Islam, terrorism, and violence, those who use them as human shields to achieve their bloody aims. These are the same people who say unequivocally that Israelis must die, that the Jewish state will eventually be destroyed. However, as Golda stated many years ago, with these types of enemies, there can be no compromise. The state of Israel has demonstrated that there can be no compromise with evil, no concessions with those who want to destroy your national homeland, and no bargain with those who want you dead. Israel had no choice on October 7th. It had to fight to survive, to be free, and to live. At this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Amata Catherine Coleman Radewagen, commonly called Alma Amata. She is an American Samoan politician who is the current delegate for the United States House of Representatives from American Samoa. She is a Republican who was elected on November 4, 2014, after defeating the Democratic incumbent Eni Faumalega. She was the first ever Republican delegate since the office had been created in 1970 and began her tenure on January 2015. It's our pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you very much for that. I am Representative Amata Radewagen. Thank you. Talofa lava. It's wonderful to be here with you today and join you in honoring the legacy of Israel's historic leader, Golda Meir. She's an example and trailblazer for women in leadership all over the world. Elected in 1969 as the first woman prime minister to lead Israel, the first in the Middle East region. I was in my 20s during her years as prime minister, and knowing of this strong woman leader made an impression on me and my early understanding of public service. Since the founding of Israel, Golda Meir held numerous major leadership roles and will always be revered as one of the founders and key early leaders of Israel. I'm a co-sponsor of the bipartisan Prime Minister Golda Meir Commemorative Coin Act, and with the public support of over half the House, this bill is worthy of prompt passage. But whatever the timing, I can say one of the lessons of my life has been the power of persistence. I've had the great joy to visit Israel more than once and to see Jerusalem, an important and historic site to people of faith all over the world. Israel is a dependable friend to the United States for more than 75 years now, and an allied democracy in an important region of the world. I come from islands of strong faith, and there's no doubt my people hold up Israel in our prayers. Likewise, our nation's diplomatic efforts and strong support must be with the people of Israel. I think Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador Huckabee will help strengthen and deepen America's generations of trust and friendship with Israel. We best honor Golda Meir's life by standing now for freedom, safety, and the dignity of the people of Israel. Thank you. God bless America and all of our friends in Israel. Soifua Ma'ia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Representative Paul Gosar from Arizona. Representative Gosar just attended a Young Republican convention in New York and thought he was a young Republican himself and got a little too excited and lost his voice. So unfortunately, while he can't speak to us tonight, his actions speak louder than words. His voting record on Israel and his friendship with all of us, with the American Jewish community, is legendary, and we thank you for that. Representative Tom McClintock resolutely supports Israel's right to defend its enemies, saying from the House floor in May that Israel not only has a right to defend Hamas, it has a moral duty to do so. The killing on both sides can only end with the unconditional surrender of Hamas. The sooner that day comes, the better for humanity. Representative McClintock.
Well, thank you, Bobby Reckness, and for that introduction, and to you and to Ezra Friedlander for organizing this event and for your invitation to share a few thoughts today. We gather here at a momentous year is concluding both for Israel and for the United States. And I believe from the events of the past year, we can draw enormous confidence and courage for the year ahead. Israel has valiantly shown the world that it has both the strength of arms and the strength of will to defend the Jewish people against the unspeakable barbarism that was unleashed against them 14 months ago. Israel has demonstrated the resolve and the resourcefulness to reach into the deepest crevices of the Iranian dictatorship and of its proxies in order to defend itself, and perhaps more so than any time since the founding of Israel. This year transformed the vow never again into action and fulfillment. And although this past year saw the rise of virulent anti-Semitism that shocked many of us, it has also produced a counter-movement across this country that is now holding those responsible to account for tolerating and encouraging that anti-Semitism, whether it's in academia, the media, or in politics. Here in America, an unabashedly pro-Israel president has just returned to office, and with this new administration, I believe we will see the strongest bonds that have yet existed between Israel and the United States. The world is already taking note, and with salutary effect. The Golda Meir Commemorative Coin Act is a token of not only the friendship between our two countries, but of the esteem, respect, and shared values that bind us together as a free people whose values spring from the same fountainhead of faith and of history. That is a lot to celebrate, and I appreciate being included in this celebration today.
I'd like to also acknowledge the presence of Israel Nitzan, former Consul General from Israel to New York. Thank you for being here. Please. Janet Rasko, Deputy Administrator. James Rasko, Deputy Administrator, British Embassy. I'm sorry, I'm not reading well. And I would like to call Paul Grossman up to greet us. Paul was in the room. Okay, Representative Gosar is going to do us a favor, and even though he's got a very hoarse voice, he can't keep himself from sharing his support of our cause and support of Israel.
Well, let's see if we make this work, okay? I want to thank everybody that you're all here and in inviting me for the celebration in regards to the gold medal for Golda Meir. Here's a lady that was before her time. She's one of the golden and iron ladies of that era. I'll swallow this. You know she was an iron lady, but she had this knack of kind of being humble. So one of the questions, one of the royal quotes I hold is, she said, I can't tell you whether women are better than men, but I can certainly tell you they're no worse. You know, I think those are things that, you know, are common sense, and it's what we miss out today on. Her most famous one to me was, in Israel there'll be no peace until Palestinian women love their children more than they hate Israel. That is more pertinent today than it ever was in the past, or equal to. So when we start looking at people who make those choices to move forward in the times of adversity, remember, those become our leaders and our heroes. That's what's going on in Israel today. You have a leader there that's doing that, as the leaders of Golda Meir did in the past. Thank you very much. And I'll let you be. Sorry.
I'm calling on someone who didn't know that he's going to be called up, but he's in the room. Giddy Grinstein. We'd be honored if you would greet us. Please come up. Giddy is someone that I've known for years. He worked under Ehud Barak during the Oslo Accords. He negotiated peace agreements for Israel. He recently came out with a book talking about how those have come forward. The Oslo Accords, regardless of how anybody feels about them at the time, the fact is they were never discontinued. Many elements may still be used in the negotiation of future agreements on Gaza. We had a discussion about this at length last night, and although it's unprepared, we'd be honored if you'd share a few remarks with us.
I'm sorry. Bobby, thank you very much for having me, and in this event, commemorating Golda Meir. He's one of our greatest prime ministers from 1969, 1970 to 1974. She's remembered for her premiership, but actually she was also sort of the foreign minister of our emerging national movement, a major fundraiser, a diplomat for us, and also she's the architect of the most important social laws in Israel that are still in place until today. In the areas of welfare and healthcare, I believe this was her greatest work as a politician, is what she has done. And so thank you very much for honoring me, for being here today. As Bobby mentioned, I've been involved in Israeli-Palestinian negotiations for a period within the government and also outside of government. I was the secretary of the Israeli delegation for the negotiations with the PLO, including at the Camp David summit, and the attempt to resolve the conflict. And what was referenced here is that a lot of my work was based on the Oslo Accords. And what is so interesting about these accords is, A, they're formally still in place. B, a lot of the arrangement in the Oslo Accords are relevant to the resolution, to the longer-term resolution of what's going on in Gaza. And we've been speaking about this for a long time, but some of you may have picked up yesterday, our Minister of Defense said, Gaza is going to be like the West Bank. Some of you may have heard. So we're seeing that some of the historical knowledge hopefully will be put down to use. And I also want to say that it's a great honor to be here because I launched in Israel an initiative called TOM, Tikkun Olam Makers. And what we do is we create solutions, radically affordable solutions for people with disabilities. All the solutions that we create are open source and free. They're available online. Anybody can download them anywhere. We also saw this as a platform for collaboration across borders, national, religious, cultural borders, in Israel between Jews and Arabs, between Israelis and Palestinians, and also within the Abraham Accords countries, in Morocco, in the UAE, in Bahrain. And I believe we may have been the only organization that has been able to straddle all these territories before October 7. And the beauty is that it's also an American enterprise. And we are committed to bringing the value of this work across the United States to communities and to people here who are living with disabilities, vulnerable populations. So the knowledge that is created in Israel is actually available over here. Will say, sadly and tragically, since October 7, we have had the numbers, you'll hear different numbers, but we probably had 21,000 people who have been injured. About 5,000 to 6,000 people, bodily injuries, will be recognized as disabled people, thousands of them. On relative scale, this is more injuries in 1 year in Israel than the United States had in the Vietnam War combined, over 20 years. The numbers of people who will be recognized as disabled. So the need is tremendous, and the response to the need is remarkable and inspiring. But the hopeful message I'd like to share with you is that this knowledge will be available for the entire world. Knowledge about how to deal with trauma, how to deal with bodily injuries. Israel is now at the frontier of this knowledge, and that knowledge will be shared, and it will benefit many, many Americans in all the constituencies that are represented here. And that's soon coming, and I think this is sort of an unintended collateral benefit of this challenge that we have been facing in Israel. So I want to thank you again for honoring me with saying a few words. I want to thank everybody here that supported this extremely important initiative and a recognition. It's an honor as an Israeli to be here today, an Israeli who lives in America, to be here today and to be part of this event. Thank you very much.
I'd like to acknowledge we're honored with the President by the presence of Ambassador Kanyama from the Republic of Zambia. Thank you for your friendship, thank you for your support, and thank you for being here. We also have from the Embassy of Sweden, Jonas Vandell, Deputy Chief of Mission. Thank you very much for your support, for your solidarity, for being here. From the Embassy of the Republic of Croatia, Darija Sinjeri, Minister, thank you so much for being here and for your support. And I acknowledge the presence of Yisrael Nitzan, but we would be honored to have some greetings from you, especially since this is a Golda Meir event, and you're familiar with her leadership and what she represented to Israel and to the Jewish people.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. It is a real privilege to be here today at this very special event. You know, we're Golda Meir. I think that Giri Grinson mentioned her role, her work, achievements, but we also remember the relevance of her term as a prime minister, the first woman prime minister and female prime minister in Israel. 1973, the Yom Kippur War, and its relevance to our experience today. Israel was surprised and attacked by its Arab neighbors. It felt back then as a catastrophe, as Israel is on the verge of collapse, and the end of this dream of Israel as the homeland of the Jewish people. We experienced the same sentiment on October 7. Israel was surprised, Israel was attacked, but just like in 1973, we overcame the challenges, and I think that we're achieving great progress in this war in defeating Hamas, in defeating the Iranian threats around us, including Hezbollah. But I want to add one more component to her legacy, because in 1973, the war is also directly connected to the peace with Egypt. The war basically paved the way for Sadat, President Sadat, to visit Jerusalem and launch this peace process with Israel. I had the privilege of serving at twice actually at the Israeli embassy in Cairo, and I saw the importance of achieving peace between Israel and its neighbors. So I think that, I don't know if, I'm sure that many of you have watched the latest movie on Golda Meir, but the narrative over there basically connects the war, from the outbreak of the war into achieving eventually peace with Egypt. It was our greatest and strongest enemy in the region. So I'll end here, and thank you again for inviting me and to speak, of course. It's a great privilege, and thank you all for joining this program. Thank you.
We have a number of ambassadors here who deserve special acknowledgement for their solidarity, their support of Israel. We have the pleasure now to hear from Ervin Bushati, who is the ambassador of Albania. And I want to throw in, for those of you who know your history, Albania was one of the only countries that saved all their Jews during the Holocaust. So thank you for that, and please come up and give us a few words. Are you sure? Please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege, actually, and an honor to be here today, especially remembering the sacrifices you've had throughout your existence and remembering such an excellent woman and leader. And I'm proud that my country, who is actually the size in population of Israel, within the Balkans and in the diaspora, we have about the same numbers. There's a lot of connection points we suffered throughout history, and that's why it was a privilege. We're honored to be one of the few countries in the world who actually, the number of Hebrews after World War II was greater. There wasn't even a single reported case, and there's been numerous occasions where your population received documents, received shelter, and we're proud actually to be great partners. Your President Herzog visited Albania last month and reestablished the strong connection, bonds, and roots that we share together. So thank you very much. It's an honor and pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Rabbi Stuart Weinblatt is the chairman of the Zionist Rabbinic Coalition. He's a very familiar face here in the halls of Congress and Senate and does unspeakable work on behalf of the Jewish people. We'd be honored if you would give us some greetings.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. I love your columns in the JNS.
Thank you very much. As Gidi had mentioned, Golda Meir is known not just as Prime Minister. Before she became Prime Minister, before Israel was a country, she came to the United States sent by David Ben-Gurion, who incidentally at the time had said, and I'm not sure it would be a compliment today, but at the time he said she was the only man in her cabinet, in his cabinet. But at any rate, she was sent here to raise money, and she spoke before the meeting of the United Jewish Appeal National Gathering, and she gave very stirring, important words. She said, "It will not be determined by you whether or not we will fight, because we have no choice, and we will fight, and we will win. But basically, the question is whether or not you will be with us in that fight as the American Jewish community." And with that began a tradition of support, financial support, emotional, and political support for the state of Israel. So Golda is really very much responsible for that direct line of our presence here in Washington today. A woman who was born in Odessa but grew up in Milwaukee. It's so appropriate to be honoring her here with this particular medal. So when she went to the United States, that was not the only place she went. She also was responsible for developing the programs when she was the foreign minister that Israel sent aid programs to Africa. Way before Israel was a developed country, when it was developing, it sought ties with all of the different African nations to try and impart and teach and share the brilliance that they had in terms of their agricultural achievements. And that would be a Dayenu moment. But that wasn't all. She also went and spoke to Soviet Jews and there helped to spark the Soviet Jewry movement, coming there before the Six-Day War, and seeing people who came in such great numbers to be able to hear her. So finally, I would just say about Golda Meir that she is truly one of a towering figure. She's inspiring, and this is such an unbelievable thing that we're doing to be able to honor her. But as we've referred to what's happening today, I cannot help but include the words that she said that were so very inspiring when she spoke, and she said, "There will come a time when we will forgive our Arab brothers for having killed our sons. But we will never be able to forgive them for making our sons having to kill theirs." And that is so true today as well. So Golda remains an inspiration to all of us, to the people of Israel. And so I just think this is such a wonderful tribute to her and to the ties between the United States and Israel, for which she is so very responsible. Thank you. Thank you.
Congressman Ralph Norman has served South Carolina's 5th District since 2017. A real estate developer and former state representative, he's known for his strong conservative stance and focus on fiscal issues. He serves on the Oversight and Reform Science, Space and Technology and Budget Committees, advocating for government accountability and energy policy. A vocal supporter of U.S.-Israel relations, Congressman Norman emphasizes security and economic collaboration between the two nations. Pleased to represent and to introduce Representative Ralph Norman.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am honored to be with you today. The relationship we have had with Israel over the years has been second to none, our only democracy in the Middle East. I wish we had had more support with the last administration than we have had, but with the Trump administration, as he has done during his time, including moving the capital to Jerusalem and supporting Israel far more financially than we've been able to do here. It's a valuable relationship that we're going to keep. Despite what you hear, the masses of support you have in Congress is real. You do have a faction that does not agree with that, but I think we're outnumbering them, and we'll continue to outnumber them as we enter the 119th Congress. The commemorative coin with Golda Meir is special, something that was easy to support. But I look forward to a long-standing relationship to only grow further and grow deeper and grow richer because of what Israel stands for. It was when I went to visit Israel, I guess it's been 4 years ago now. What a honor to meet your leaders there, to go into the houses, to talk to the young people. So we look forward to supporting y'all in any way, and I just thank you for what you're doing. What your presence here means in Congress is monumental. Don't ever let anybody sell you short on that. But you have to be your own advocate, and you've got a willing ally with me and so many others. So Godspeed. Thank you.
We are honored with many ambassadors, and with your presence, I would like to introduce Birgitta Tazelaar, the ambassador from the Kingdom of Netherlands, to please greet us with a few words.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. In remembrance of Golda Meir, I'm wearing a suit, trying to be the only man in the room. Unfortunately, I also have to say that we acknowledge that anti-Semitism is on the rise in the Netherlands, in many other European countries, in the US. We acknowledge this, and it is wrong. Our government is taking this very seriously and has just adopted an action plan to combat anti-Semitism. It means that we will spend €4.5 million extra per year on combating anti-Semitism, and that money will go to better protection of Jewish institutions, more education, better education, and also more commemorative events like the one that you're organizing today. And hopefully we can change that trend to a more positive trend and get rid of this horrible discrimination and anti-Semitism. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the New Jersey State Police Troopers, 2 of the Jewish Troopers Association, and 1 of the Muslim Troopers Association. Thank you so much for being here, Captain Grossman, Lieutenant Zislin, and Sergeant Malik. Thank you, all of them. And with them, I'd like to acknowledge Rabbi Mendy Karlebach of the Chabad of New Jersey. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to introduce Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a trailblazer in Florida politics who served Congress since 2004 and is a former chair of the Democratic National Committee. For our purposes in the Golda Meir commemorative coin, as you know, when you introduce a bill in Congress or in Senate, you need co-sponsors. You need a sponsor from the Democratic side and one from the Republican side, and the same in the Senate. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was the first person who stepped forward to sponsor this bill, and if not for her, we wouldn't be here today. Your achievements on behalf of America, democracy, and the Jewish community are legendary. It's an honor to have you here with us today.
Good afternoon. I think we're in afternoon, right? Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the incredibly kind recognition, and it's really wonderful to be able to be surrounded by friends as we celebrate the kinship between the United States and Israel. Before I begin, I want to thank Bobby Rechnitz for his advocacy as chairman of the Golda Meir Commemorative Coin Committee. Thank you so much. This is starting to be humorous, the number of events that we come together for, that Bobby is introducing me, and I am thanking him. And his, speaking of legendary advocacy, your commitment to the Jewish people and to the notion of Lador Vador, and ensuring that we have the kind of continuity for our community down through the generations, and that we never forget what has come before us, is so incredibly important. So thank you very, very much. Truly. And also Brock Pierce and Joe Lipsy and Yidel Perlstein as well for helping make this and their other organizing events leading up to this. I'd like those happen. I'm also grateful to my colleague, Congressman Garbarino, for joining me to commemorate the 75th anniversary of Israel's independence and the enduring strength of the U.S.-Israel relationship. Together, he and I introduced H.R. 987, a long overdue tribute to a founder of the State of Israel and a fierce advocate for our bilateral relationship, Golda Meir. Unfortunately, we didn't cross the finish line this Congress. I will tell you that the Congressman and I did our job. We got super close, and we would love for our friends in the Senate in the next Congress to make this a little bit of a higher priority, because really the cause is too great. Golda Meir's legacy and her experience is the Jewish experience. And I would be remiss, of course he's run off to organizing some corner of the room now, but I would be remiss, like he always does, if I didn't acknowledge the incredible work of Ezra Friedlander as well, who is the glue of every cause that we try to advance here, that are priorities of the Jewish people. So thank you so much, Ezra. Golda Meir was born into persecution in Eastern Europe, and she moved with her family to seek the American dream in the United States. And I'll tell you, as I was going around to my colleagues on the House floor, and it's emblematic of why and how our small d democratic process and the brilliance of the Founding Fathers bringing people from all different walks of life together in the People's House is so critical. Because I can't tell you the number of times I would approach a colleague and ask them to be a co-sponsor of the Congressional Gold Coin Act, and they had no idea that Golda Meir was an American citizen. I mean, so the ways that we are able to learn from one another and help ensure that when we learn from one another, we're able to use that knowledge to build on our decision, on the way we make decisions, is incredibly important. So then finally, Golda's family made Aliyah and dedicated herself to the establishment of the Jewish state. Her journey to become one of the first women in modern history to serve as a head of state is a testament to the progress of the Jewish people and of Jewish women in particular. As Israel's prime minister, she built up and strengthened the Jewish state and bolstered its international standing. Golda Meir blazed the trail for Jewish women in public service around the world. And I am really, yes, we can applaud for that. Thank you, Digita. I am truly blessed to be able to use my platform to repay the debt that we all owe her legacy. She has truly been the woman whom I most often hold up as an example of someone that I know I personally have strived to emulate. I'm also proud of the work that we continue to do in Congress towards the goal of reinforcing Israel's security and our mutual interests in the Middle East. Along with my Appropriations Committee colleagues, we secured $3.3 billion in direct security assistance to Israel in the last Congress, and we extended loan guarantees to Israel beyond 2028, ensuring that our partnership with Israel endures into the next generation. This Congress, we also secured vital security assistance for Israel. These critical investments will safeguard Israel from emerging threats and from weapons of mass destruction to state-sponsored terror. I'd be remiss not to mention that we must all join together and plead with all peace-loving nations to call on Hamas to lay down their arms and renounce their sworn commitment to destroy Israel and the killing of Jews. That is something that we have to continue to be relentless about. Hamas can end the suffering of Israelis and innocent Palestinians right now, just as they could end the heartbreak and the suffering of the hostage families who desperately want to see their loved ones reunited. A weakened Hamas and defeated Hezbollah offers hope. Let's pray that momentum for peace continues in this region that Golda Meir left such a mark upon. This year, we also marked another massively successful celebration of Jewish American Heritage Month. More than ever before, this year's JAM saw its widest public celebration of the generations of Jewish Americans who shaped our history, American history, our culture, and our society. In 2005, during my first term in office, some of you know I introduced legislation that passed the House and Senate, urging the President to proclaim the National Observation of a Month, recognizing the contributions that Jewish Americans have made to life in America. From medicine and entertainment to fighting for civil rights and equality, we have helped America to become that more perfect union. Since 2006, each May, Presidents Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden honored Jewish American Heritage Month. And while we must celebrate this history and the people who made it, we must also never forget the scourge of anti-Semitism they overcame, which still surges today, especially on our college campuses. Elevating Jewish heroes can help defeat that hate, and it is partly why I'm so motivated to pass the Prime Minister Golda Meir Commemorative Coin Act. Thank you. And while we had a strong bipartisan list of co-sponsors for this legislation, our work continues into the next Congress. By the way, I'm also proud to tell you that President Biden just the other day signed my bill into law that will be creating a commission to study bringing the National Museum of American Jewish History into the Smithsonian family. So that will give important recognition and uplift the history of the Jewish community and our contributions to America, and also contribute to reducing anti-Semitism and bigotry. So I know that I can count on your support as we fight for the U.S.-Israel relationship in the months ahead. Yom Ha'atzmaut Sameach. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to introduce Representative Brad Schneider of Illinois. Serves the 10th District since 2017. Before his congressional career, he worked as a management consultant and industrial engineer. He serves on the Foreign Affairs and Ways and Means Committee, focusing on tax policy and global relations. Representative Schneider is a staunch advocate for U.S.-Israel relations works to strengthen diplomatic, economic, and security cooperation between the two nations. And one thing that I'd like to point out to you, if any of you have walked the halls of Congress, you'll see flags outside the Congress members. There are state flags. You'll see some photos. You'll see a lot of interesting things. But what you see outside Congressman Schneider's office is pictures of all the hostages. And that's stood up since after October 7th and stays till now. So it's our pleasure to introduce Congressman Brad Schneider.
Thank you, Bobby. And my office is actually right out this door. What you'll also see is on the door a mezuzah, and that's been there long before October 7th. I say that because I am proud to be a member of Congress. I describe this job, it's one of the best jobs I've ever had, maybe the best, but it's certainly the highest honor and the greatest responsibility I've ever had. And I take great pride in that, as doing it as a Jewish member of Congress, and that's why the mezuzah is there. And if you go inside, you'll see a picture on my office. I have a picture of my grandmother and her siblings and my great-grandparents as a grandchild of immigrants. I'm going to get to my prepared remarks in a second, but I'm going to weave for a second. Golda Meir will link to all of this. That family somehow made their way to Colorado, where my parents were born and I grew up. I'll get to Golda Meir in a second, I promise, but I have to jump ahead and just brag for a second. My nephew won the state championship last week in esports for his high school. Yeah, so that's a big deal. You don't need to clap, but I'm proud of him. And it's only relevant is his high school is East High School in Denver, where my mother went to high school. And my father went to a rival school, North High School. And you're wondering, why am I talking about high schools in Denver? Well, Golda Meir went to North High School in Denver. So that was just my way of connecting. Golda is like family to me. But it is an honor to join you here today and to celebrate the enduring bond between the United States and Israel, enduring and ironclad, and to reflect on the remarkable legacy of Golda Meir. First, let me thank Bobby and Ezra Friedlander for bringing us here, and I'm proud to stand beside everyone. My notes say name the reps who are in the room. Okay, but it was good to be here with Debbie. Is Kim here? Kim! Oh, you weren't sitting here when I stood up.
No, it was not.
So I'm happy to be here with Kim. I'll tell you, Debbie and Kim and I and our Jewish colleagues lean on each other greatly. And we share a very strong commitment to strengthening the U.S.-Israel relationship. It is one that has endured from the beginning of the State of Israel. President Truman, 11 minutes after Israel declared its independence, the United States was the first country to recognize Israel. And today, if we think of the past 15 months, Israel has endured incredible challenges, but the United States has stood by Israel every step of the way, and we're in a very different reality. We are here in the moment of immense challenge. The attacks of last October 7th, the barbaric invasion of Hamas into Israel, and the subsequent conflicts with Hezbollah in the north started firing rockets on October 8th. The Houthis from Yemen, militias in Syria and Iraq. Israel has been fighting a multi-front war every single day since October 7th at a level that is unlike anything the country has faced. I'm proud that President Biden was the first president ever in American history, in Israel history, to visit Israel at a time of war. I remember I was talking about family. I'll keep it on family. My son's birthday is April 14th. April 14th this year was a remarkable moment as we literally held our breath as we announced that rockets and missiles drones had been launched from Iran. And yet the United States and Israel and other allies in the region united together, not coming together on April 13th, but demonstrating the importance of the relationship and the work that happened for months and years before April 14th to thwart that attack. Israel faces attacks every single day in our region. It is facing threats to its existence every single day. And what we understand, and we always understand and must always declare, that Israel's existence, Israel's security, Israel's identity as the Jewish state, the homeland of the Jewish people, is not up for negotiation, not today, not ever. And the spirit is alive in Israel today as it always has been, in its people and its innovation and its resilience. It's also alive in the work we, Kim and I and others, do here in Congress, whether it's supporting legislation like the Golda Meir Commemorative Coin Act or advancing regional peace through frameworks like the Abraham Accords. And we will continue to support, through the Abraham Accords caucus, the work towards peace. The moment we're in demands great vigilance and also vision. It demands that we stand with Israel as it confronts threats and that we continue to pursue the opportunities for peace and prosperity wherever they may arise and grab them at the moment they present themselves. As Golda showed us, hope is not and must not ever be a passive enterprise. It's something that we build through commitment, dedication, and action. So let us commit to that action, to that hope, and to the enduring U.S.-Israel relationship. Let Golda be our role model to say that the U.S.-Israel relationship is ironclad. As she said when she came here before the War of Independence, it is not for us, the United States, and she's talking to the Jewish community at the time, to decide whether Israel is going to fight for its existence. That decision was made long ago. But we have a role in ensuring that Israel is victorious. That's why I'm proud to support Israel as a member of Congress and proud to be with you, standing with Israel as the American community. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're honored to have with us Representative Kim Schreier from the state of Washington. Dr. Schreier sits on various committees, including Health and Energy committees. She sat on the Oversight Investigation Committee, many subcommittees. Mainly, she is here because she's had professional preparation to serve in Congress. She started her career as a pediatrician. So I don't have to say any more. When you have experience working with children and diagnosing all the problems, you can be a very successful politician trying to get things done here in the halls of Congress. So your experience brings you to us here this day. We're very appreciative. We're appreciative of your constant support for the U.S.-Israel relationship and for the Golda Meir commemorative coin, and we'd be pleased to hear greetings from you.
Thank you for having me at this celebration. I thought I was just coming to a luncheon. I did not know I was speaking at the luncheon, but I'm delighted to, because I'm always thrilled to talk about the U.S.-Israel relationship, that it is ironclad, and that you better believe I will continue in my capacity here to be a champion for supporting the state of Israel, because I know that our relationship is second to none. I thought, again, unprepared remarks, that I would come up and tell you a couple things. Now I have to comment on the pediatrician business. So yes, you could say that as a pediatrician, you understand things like explaining to people that you can't always get your way, that you have to take turns, that you can't interrupt each other, that you need to play nicely in the sandbox. But I will also say that being a pediatrician, with that comes the personality of a pediatrician, which is generally pretty disarming and lends itself to working well with others, having tougher conversations in very respectful ways. And this is a time when we need those really respectful conversations about what are very hot-button issues on both sides of the aisle. This is not a time to shy away from those conversations. It's a time to dive in and show compassion and ironclad support for Israel. I also wanted to touch on, I guess, my personal experience, not with Golda Meir, but as a kid, when I was in 7th grade, I had an assignment to write about a role model or a hero. And I went to my mom and said, I don't know, who should I write about? Because I was 12, 13 years old at the time, and she said, oh, you should do it about Golda Meir. And I said, well, who's that? And she said, we're going to the library. Maybe she said, go to the encyclopedia first and then go to the library. And I read a book about her, and truly, she became a hero and a role model, and I had no idea just how much of a role model, because I had no idea I would be entering politics as a very, very small, small shadow. But it is women who pave the path for other women. The last thing that I just want to comment on as I think about how proud I am of her and of the state of Israel, I wanted to let you know that this is a time, and I'm sure many of you are feeling this, where, when about half the Jewish population in the world lives in the US, half the Jewish population in the world lives in Israel, right now many of us don't feel completely safe anywhere in the world. It's been a very unsettling time. And so I want you to know, and Brad mentioned this, that we have our own private chat, a group chat, where we have stood together and supported each other since October 7th in particular. And it has been a lifesaver for me here in the Congress, in addition to frequent texts with my rabbi. So Am Yisrael Chai, and I am thrilled to honor Golda Meir today.
Thank you. We'd like to call up now Daniel Mariashin, the Chief Executive Officer of B'nai B'rith International. Their work is world acclaimed. We know very much the impact that they have on the Jewish community and the relations here in the United States, here in Washington, and we'd be honored for you to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Ezra. Thank you for organizing this event, and it's really great to see so many members of Congress and diplomats, colleagues of mine in the Jewish community, rabbis, and so many others, to celebrate this wonderful occasion with regard to the Golda Meir Medal. It's been mentioned that Golda had so much to do with the Soviet Jewry movement, but many of you will remember or recall from your reading, she was Israel's first ambassador to the Soviet Union. And there is an iconic photo of Golda in Moscow on September 10th, 1948, surrounded by thousands of Soviet Jews. She was really the symbol for all of the oppression that Soviet Jews had undergone until that point and would continue to undergo until the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. But I'm sure that for Golda, that moment was one that she treasured the most. It wasn't only Golda. It was a great family, because her sister Clara Stern, was for almost 30 years the director of the Jewish Federation in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So the apples did not fall far from the tree in that family. And it was mentioned about the assignment that you got when you were 13. I was a little bit older, but my mother was such a great fan of Golda. And the American Jewish community in that time, in that era, there were others, of course, many others, Ben Gurion and a whole list of founding fathers and mothers of the State of Israel. But Golda had a special place. And I remember buying for my mother for her birthday, because the book came out in 1976, My Life. Some of you may have the book, some of you may have read the book, which was really one of the great, it's a great autobiography and a great story of Golda's life. So she had really a tremendous impact on so many of us. It's great that she's being honored and memorialized in this way. And it's wonderful that all of us came together to be here for that occasion today. Thank you.
Rabbi Eric Fussfield is the Deputy Director, International Center for Human Rights and Public Policy, and the Director of Legislative Affairs for B'nai B'rith International. We'd be honored if you'd make a few comments and share with us.
Thank you. You have me speaking directly after my boss, who's a tough act to follow, but it's better than speaking before your boss and maybe stealing any thunder. But it's wonderful to be here among so many friends and allies from our community, from government, from the diplomatic corps. We're all here with a common purpose. When I think about the U.S.-Israel relationship, this special relationship between two strong democracies founded on ideas and shared values, is there anyone in history who embodies that relationship more than Golda Meir? I mean, it's been pointed out, she was born in Ukraine, she grew up in Milwaukee and Denver, made Aliyah as a young adult, and she came back here many times over the years. David Ben-Gurion sent her here to raise funds and to spread Israel's message because she knew this country well. She knew English well, which he didn't, but she knew English well. And she spoke with such a passion about the Jewish state and its need for survival. And this was something that really fortified the U.S.-Israel relationship. And some people have shared quotes of hers. She was a very quotable figure. One of my favorite Golda Meir quotes is, "Don't be so humble. You're not that great." And I think she was somebody who was tough. She was pragmatic. She didn't worship false idols. And she knew what was important, and that was the security of the state of Israel, and that was the support of the United States, which was key to Israel's survival. And I think it's a good time to remind ourselves of these imperatives when we're at, as we are now, a time of transition in Washington. A new Congress will be sworn in 2 weeks, and we'll have a new administration a couple of weeks after that. But our leaders change, but what will endure is the U.S.-Israel relationship. And it's so important. Oh, we can applaud that. It's so important that all of us, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, recommit ourselves to that relationship and everything that it stands for. And if we do so, we'll go, as our tradition says, from strength to strength, and the relationship will thrive, and so will the legacy of this woman, Israel's former Prime Minister, Golda Meir. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to call Bishop Desmond Dumby, the African Director for the Israel Allies Caucus.
Thank you very much. I greet you all from Africa. It's an honor to be here. I was invited by my friend Gil Capen. I work as the Africa Director, Israel Allies Foundation, operating in 23 countries. And what we do is that we mobilize political capital for Israel, and we demobilize hate against Israel. We operate in 23 countries through parliamentary caucuses. And in September, we gathered together through the direction of God 23 parliamentarians from 23 African nations and did the first Addis Ababa declaration in support of the state of Israel. And that declaration gave Israel a diplomatic capital through faith-based diplomacy and parliamentary diplomacy to be able to caucus for the shared interest that we have together. Today is indeed a great day when we honor one of the greatest women who walked on earth. Why is that important for Africa? Zionism, indeed, is the greatest model for nationalism. The Bible says that to whom much is given, much is required. Israel is the model that will deliver the world from its complexities. The Bible has a concept called the Jew first. I'm not saying that because I want to glorify the Jew, but God has a plan and a concept going forward, and that's what we follow. Golda Meir modeled independence for African nations, and this is something that you can go and look up. In 1948, when Israel gathered its independence, then African nations looked at the concept that Israel had put forth, and they realized that they are able to fight their colonizers through the things that they have together in terms of their unique identities, unique languages, and unique borders. And therefore, Israel assisted Africa to be able to decolonize itself and establish the concept of nationalism going forward. And Golda Meir was central to this aspect. And therefore, I stand here as a proud African to honor her work in terms of showing us the way. The first nation after Israel in Africa to gain its independence was Ghana. And therefore, my country also and many others followed suit, and we realized that we are able to stand as unique nations going forward as unique people, unique voices, unique currencies. And therefore, I stand here proudly thanking the nation of Israel for that. I honor the lady that she is, and her legacy lives and moves on. And going forward, we are taunting and pushing faith-based diplomacy. And through the Abrahamic Accords, Africa is able to put away its differences, whether it's religion, whatever it is that there is, and we unite together to bring peace to a continent that has been called dark. But now, that continent will stand as not only a hub nation for peace or light, but also a springboard continent where we'll be able to count light going forward. I thank you for the invite, and please help me honor Golda Meir as one of the greatest women who ever existed. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
What a beautiful expression of faith-based diplomacy. Isn't that refreshing to hear something like that? I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and especially those who graciously spoke in support of the Jewish state and the enduring U.S.-Israel relationship. It's a difficult period, but one where we are literally seeing history being written and rewritten daily. Since the devastating October 7th attacks, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has demonstrated unwavering leadership in the face of grave threats to his nation and to the values that we all hold dear. In the wake of these attacks, Netanyahu swiftly recognized the state of the regional threats, understanding that Israel's security was intertwined with the stability of the broader Middle East. He has been resolute in ensuring Israel's defense while confronting the rise of a radical extremism that seeks to destabilize not only Israel, but the entire free world. Under his leadership, Israel has taken decisive action to safeguard its citizens, sending a clear message to those who seek to destroy democracy and promote terror. He has decimated Hamas, destroyed Hezbollah's ability to strike Israel, weakened Iran, and as it moves closer to nuclear weapons ability, and on his watch, the butcher of Syria is gone. The region is changing. Terrorism is losing, and those who aspire for a better tomorrow, free of the radical Ayatollah strangleholds, are able to breathe and dream again. Prime Minister Netanyahu's commitment to defending freedom and democracy is evident in every single decision that he makes. He stands as a bulwark against the forces of radicalism, ensuring that Israel not only survives, but thrives in a region fraught with danger. Netanyahu's leadership transcends borders. He has demonstrated that he is a steadfast ally of the U.S. and a critical partner in our shared fight against extremism. He understands that the battle Israel faces is not just for its survival, but for the preservation of a free world. Therefore, Prime Minister Netanyahu deserves the ultimate support of the United States Congress. His leadership is not only safeguarding Israel's future, but also standing strong in the defense in freedom and democracy for all. Together, we must stand with him in this fight for a better and more secure world. Your support for the Golda Meir commemorative coin is much more than just symbolic. We have a new Congress being sworn in, just as we had almost 100 members of the House come in 2 years ago. Many of these new members most probably came from the university system in the United States. We know that that system today is facing a lot of challenges, especially fraught with anti-Semitism, as we heard from Shabbos Kestenbaum. Nothing is more important than highlighting the U.S.-Israel cooperation, dedication to one another, and the U.S.'s preservation of its only democratic ally in the Middle East. And by supporting the Golda Meir commemorative coin, you're highlighting that relationship and you're cementing that relationship, and that's why these events are so important. They go beyond the expression goodwill. They go to actually advocating and moving things in a positive direction and educating new members of Congress coming in as to how important this relationship is. So I thank you all for attending. We thank all the congressional members for their support and wish everyone a wonderful afternoon and rest of the day. The last ambassador I wanted to acknowledge is, or the political counselor, is Adrian Robot from the Embassy of Poland. Thank you so much for being here and for the wonderful countries in Eastern Europe today who are actually becoming Israel's strongest allies compared to Western Europe. It's almost ironic given the history of the last few years, but it's much appreciated, and thank you very much for being here.
So do you think we can close the door?